I have not, to be honest with you. I have been as we pass up and down, but other than that, no, I have not.
As far as climate, is this pretty much the same as Western Michigan? I've been to Marquette, and I've been to Ironwood. I think that's a place in Michigan, but I've never been to, is it Kalamazoo?
Kalamazoo, yeah. I will say this. I love it here, and here's why. I love the sun, okay? Now, I just need to see sun. So whether it's 95 degrees or minus 25 degrees, I just want to see sun. In Southwest Michigan, you have the lake effect. And so from November all the way through March, it's gray. You never see the sun again for 5 months. Here, now, it might be minus 15 to 20, but the sun's out. At least you're getting your vitamin D. You know what I mean? So I love that part. I mean, it can look like 85 degrees outside. That's all I need, just the sun.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about recruiting. The college athletics is all about recruiting. One of the things that you came in right away with your opening news conference was that this is what it's about, recruiting. It seems to me that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're kind of changing the way coaches are recruiting kids these days, using social media, reaching them on their level. Yeah, you may have to go sit on mom and dad's couch and try and convince them to allow their son or to come to your university, but talk about the strategy that you're using to try and reach these kids maybe in unconventional ways.
Yeah, you're doing everything you can to teach lifetime lessons in a cultural way, right? So everything starts with that, right? Whether that's recruiting or whether that's teaching a life lesson or whether that's the social life, the spiritual life, the football life, the academic life. You've got to find ways for these millennials to listen to you, right? And so when you're let me give you an example of like a rivalry. Let's say we're talking about rivalries or something, okay? And you guys want to talk about Larry Bird and Michael Jordan. I mean, these kids are going to look at you like the guy that made the sneakers, the guy that made my shoes. No, the Michael Jordan, right? You have to use like Kanye and Drake and things that this phone gives them instant access to. They don't need us, guys. These people do not need us anymore for the content in terms of how fast they can get information. What they need us for is context, right? And that's the same thing in recruiting. They need us for the information in terms of what does it mean and how do I use it. Everything in recruiting is the exact same way. We don't try to do anything out of the ordinary. Try to do it. We're just us. And I think that's what's really neat about our program and how we do things. We're just us. Kathy Beauregard at Western Michigan allowed me to be myself. Mark Hoyle, he knew I laid it all on the table, said, if you don't want to do it this way, do not hire me, because this is exactly our plan. This is how we're going to do this. And he has allowed me to be myself. So I think that's what makes it really strong, because it's real. A lot of people say, are you real? I'm just myself. So I don't even know the answer to that question. I'm just me.
I guess I think of, Brevin Spanford, a St. Cloud Tech kid who's committed to your program. I saw a player's card with his face inside of Gopher's helmet. These sorts of things, they seem to me that, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not in your circles, but that these are new, innovative ways of reaching kids.
Yeah, I can't talk about anybody specifically, but I will say this. I have a degree in elementary education. I might not be the smartest guy, but that's basically a degree in creativity, right? That's really what it is. And we have to find ways to be incredibly creative, that they're actually going to open that piece of mail, that they're actually going to open that link, that they're actually going to sit there and say, I love what I get from this guy every day. Like, I love that. That's why I'm going to open it, because they get flooded. We're not the only people that do it, but we're the people, I think, we are some of the few that do it very personally and do it very consistently, where it's not mass. It means something when you get it. And it's not just, this has his face here, but it might be something that yet young recruit really likes, right? So it's part of getting to know your guys and getting to know those guys you're recruiting and adapting it to what they like. And I think then you can be really creative. So, but again, that's part of us being us, and we're incredibly creative in everything we do. We don't have the biggest budget where we have all these people doing it for us, and I like it that way, to be honest with you.
Coach, you interviewed, you got offered the job. What was your biggest challenge? What was your first hurdle that you had to overcome mentally, whether it was personally or professionally, coming over to Minnesota?
I think the first thing was, even though she was on board, I was taking my wife out of her home state of Michigan and going farther north. It doesn't get much farther north than Michigan. And then when we got the map out, just to see, what's around it, where are we going? We know where Minnesota is on a map. We do know that, but it was a diagonal slant up to the left. It wasn't even like this long, like horizontal line. It was vertically up. And she's like, I didn't know you could get that much more vertical than more farther north than what you did with Michigan. So that's a joke, obviously. But she was all on board from the start. We wouldn't be here, I promise you. But I think one of the biggest things was connecting our football team. My entire life I've been the king of the twos, too small, too short, too inexperienced. I've always walked into challenges. I've always enjoyed the experience of the challenge because I love to stay busy. And if I'm bored and I have nothing to do for 10 minutes, guys, I'm the worst person to be around. I just am. I'm just going to annoy you, I bet. So I always have to have something. So I love to take the challenging jobs, run to the fire, not away from the fire. Kind of the story of my life and my staff's life, really to connect our football team. They just went through some turmoil. It was a really kind of a divided team. There were people that believed in the boycott, didn't believe in the boycott, thought this was right, didn't think this was right. A lot of other people were kind of running different things, and it was just different. And I had to get in there and see how fast or what was going to be needed to connect these players back, and not unite them on necessarily a front that didn't have to do with football and didn't have to do with how we can be better men on a daily basis. So it was tough, but like I said, we know that walking into it, that taking the job.
Did you dip your toe in the water and kind of feel it out a little bit? Or are you the kind of guy that does a cannonball and you got in there and said, listen up everybody, new sheriff in town, for lack of a better term?
What do you think? Might have been a can opener, might not even been the cannonball. I will say that, at the end of the day, I can't control anything that happened prior to me. And I respect every coach that's come through here. But we've had 3 head coaches in 3 years. And just like I say in there, we have to bring cultural sustainability to the University of Minnesota, where people really want to be at the University of Minnesota. And when you look at our successful athletic programs, they've had coaches there that have been there for such a long time. And, you look at our rivals to the west, they've had 2 coaches in 40-some years. You look at the East, they've had the same athletic director who used to be the head football coach. He's been in the same building for 30-some years, right? Still his culture. I can go on and on. Northwestern's going that direction right now with Pat Fitzgerald, with him and Randy Walker maybe possibly having close to a 30-some year run of the same culture. We have to find the cultural sustainability, and we came here for that. I didn't go with Mark Hoyle last year to Syracuse because I knew that was a stepping stone for him. And I knew that'd be a launching pad for a few years for me. This is not. This is something that if we were going to take this on, and my wife asked, are you sure you want to do this again? Because it takes a lot of energy out of you. And even though I'm only 36, it's a monster when you take over a program that hasn't won a championship in 50 years. And I said, absolutely. And we're going to put our feet in the sand, and we're going to get after it.
I think a lot of times Minnesota fans at all levels sometimes are okay with being pretty good. And this is kind of a loaded question. I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. But how good can the Minnesota football program be? Can it be competing for Big Ten titles and even national championships with the likes of some of these established programs like Ohio State and Michigan that are, in the headlines weekly?
Guys, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe this place and had the right people in line. And I mean even Richard Pitino. Okay, I mean Mark Hoyle. I mean Stephanie, our soccer coach, and I mean Jessica, our softball coach, and Hugh and Lucia. These are people that we are all connected. We all have a responsibility to support each other and do it as a team. And that's why I love these Gopher road trips. But I would not have come here if I didn't believe we could win Big Ten championships. I would never do that, especially at age 36. I would have stayed where I was, where it was comfortable. And but this is what I do. This is how I do it. I love the challenge. I love to take over something that has been just thirsty for it for so many years. I really believe it's a sleeping giant. And I believe that with the new Athletes Village. I believe with our energy, our marketing strategy, our branding, how we can go out there and recruit some of the finest student athletes in America. I mean, guys, we're ranked in the top 15 in the country in recruiting for 2018. And again, I'm not in all the rankings, but it's true. We have the 3rd most commitments in the entire country. The 3rd most. That should not happen at Minnesota, guys. We had the highest GPA ever in the history of our program. And we've only been here 1 semester, and the road boat culture gets that started with the turmoil we walked into. So when you start to watch, people need to start celebrating the process of becoming a champion, not just when it happens. Because if you think of that, it'll never happen. The process of becoming a champion, celebrate recruiting, celebrate the facility, celebrate days like this of being a Gopher fan. Let's make sure everybody feels that, because there's going to be big-time recruits out of the state of Minnesota that if we don't change the way we talk about Gopher football, we don't change the way we believe about Gopher football or act towards Gopher football, they're not going to want to stay. And it's going to take those guys, those top 10 players, to win and beat Wisconsin, which we haven't done in 13 years, win Big Ten championship, win national titles. How are those kids going to Notre Dame? How are they going to Michigan? The top 2 or 3 that are really national game changers. Why? I would, at the end of the day, we haven't won a championship for 50 years. Why should they stay? Just because it's your state school? We got to give them other reasons to stay. And that's what we're going to be working on. Change everybody's perception of how they look at Gopher football. And I'm tired of hearing, oh, we've had this before. We've heard this before. You're just like this guy. I promise everybody out there, you have not seen anything like me or our staff in how we do things. Now, our energy equals promise for today. It doesn't mean promise that it's going to happen this year or next year. There's a process to this, but I want people to celebrate the process. Sorry about the long answer.
No,
I have a tendency to do that.
Personally, I'm in. I don't know where I sign up, but I'm in.
Appreciate that. How fast are you?
Obviously, not very.
That's it.
With Western Michigan, obviously, playing in the National Collegiate Hockey Conference, Andy Murray, great head coach. You got to be a Gopher hockey fan. I get that, but they're a Big Ten conference team. Switch allegiances to St. Cloud State. Can you do that for me?
I definitely
in the
can't do
NCHC,
that.
You can't
I
do
wish
that
I
for
could.
Me?
You know, I really wish I could. But I will say this. At least I'm a huge hockey fan.
All right.
I mean, I got to drop the puck over there and let's play hockey over there at the Minnesota Wild. And Jason Zucker's become a really good friend, and his wife Carly. So I'm a huge hockey fan. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, so I always had allegiance to the Blackhawks. But one thing about a head football coach, you change allegiances real quick when you get into a major sports city.
Well, Coach, we know you got to get going. We really appreciate you coming on and joining us. Best of luck, not only this season, but hopefully for the years to come. We're looking forward to seeing where you take the program.
I appreciate it, guys, and I appreciate the time. Thanks for covering our program. Row the boat, Scotty Mile. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Jay Fleck,
All right.
the head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gopher football team, and